Guys, I'm Julia Nath and welcome back to my channel. And so in this video, we'll be talking about the fascinating yet interesting book that is Daisy Miller, written by Henry James. So in this video, I'll be introducing you guys to the author, Henry James. I'll be talking a little bit about his life and work. I'll be talking about the book, Daisy Miller, summarize the plot, be talking about the theme of the book, the cast, the character, and then finally some of my remark and my opinion on the book and its character, and lastly but not least, my recommendation of other books by Henry James. So now, let's dive in. You should probably take in mind that Henry James was a renowned author. He was regarded to be the key transitional figure from literary modernism and literary realism. He was also considered by many people to be among the greatest novelists in English language, almost to the extent I compare him to Gabriel Garcia Marquez. But Henry James mainly focused on short stories. So Henry James was born on the 15th April 1843, and he passed away on the 28th February 1916. He was born in a household of a father who is Sir Henry James, a brother who is a renowned philosopher, psychiatrist, William James, and a sister who is a famous diarist, Alice James. When Henry was still a young boy, he was exposed to many primary influencers who focused on scientific and philosophical subjects. And in later accounts, Percy Lookback would remark about his calculated education by his father to be ridiculous, corn coats, extraordinarily haphazard, and promiscuous. And in 1862, Henry James would attend Harvard Law School. You heard that right, Harvard Law School. However, upon realizing his lack of interest in such fields, Henry James quickly moved on to pursue his interest in literature. He is around himself and associates himself with authors, writers, and critics alike, specifically in the location of Boston and Cambridge. 13 years later, he will move to the Latin Quarter of Paris, where he will meet many renowned literature naturalism genre or like real life genre, Emile Zola, Alphonse, etc. And just 3 years after moving to the Latin Quarter of Paris, he would write Daisy Miller, and 1 year after that he will publish the book. And the book will both establish his fame on both sides of the Atlantics. And now let's jump to Daisy Miller. So in this part of the video, I'll be summarizing the plot of the story. Well, I will not do that expertly because I'm not a professional, but I'll link the professional people in the description below. And take in mind that my summarize don't sound good, but okay, there's like a lot of summarize, okay? But now let's jump in. So in the book, it portrays the first page. It portrays the meeting of Frederick Winterbourne and Daisy Miller. Both of them was introduced to each other by Daisy Miller's younger brother, who is 9-year-old by the time. Both of them chatted and eventually come to agreement of going to a chateau in Chillon, and a local tourist attraction. Although Winterbourne was kind of confused by Daisy Miller's behavior, and he later consulted his aunt Mrs. Costello, he still continued to pursue her despite his aunt's disapproval. Mr. Costello is, in my opinion, a very self-loving woman. She disapproves of families who have very stunned relationship to their career, such as the Millers one. The Millers have very close relationship with their career, Eugenio. And she also despises young girls who go out with strange men only after half an hour talking. And that strange young man is none other than Winterbourne. So the next 2 days, Winterbourne meet Daisy Miller and both of them go on a steamboat to the castle. Despite trying to impress Daisy by privacy, he paid the janitor. Yeah, Daisy doesn't seem quite impressed and she doesn't even blush or anything, which made Winterbourne even more confused. So after that, he informed her that he gonna depart her in a few days' time to Geneva, which offended her and irritated her. However, she eventually told him that he should visit her in Rome later that year. A couple of weeks and days later, I don't remember, but both of them accidentally bumped into each other in Rome, in the parlor of Mrs. Walker, a very respectable woman in almost the center of Italy social class. Her moral value have been adapted to the class, and she's very, very fashionable. She had then informed Winterbourne about all the rumors about this scandalous Miss Daisy Miller and start talking about how Italian men would go to Daisy's hotel room at night. And her mother was completely inconspicuously ignorant of all the affair. It's why she is the mother of Daisy Miller. And then there's a small scandal about Daisy. A specific Italian young man who is having a partner for time, and that's what make Daisy the subject of the talk of the town for a couple of while. And in one point, both Winterbourne and his aunt and his friend, Mrs. Walker tried to warn Daisy about the scandal and tried to ask her to separate from that specific gentleman, but she refused. So late one night, when Winterbourne was lonely and hanging by himself, chilling in the Colosseum, a very important place in the book, you will soon find out, with the malaria and everything. He recognized two figures, that is Daisy Miller and that specific gentleman. They were hanging out together and talking specific things. And when Winterbourne come to them and warned them about the malaria and deadliness of it, the gentleman shook it off, saying that it's Daisy's decision. What's a most irresponsible word I ever heard. And then Daisy said, I don't care. And Winterbourne said, okay, and he left. A couple of days though, Daisy get what she ultimately deserved. She caught the malaria that Winterbourne had tried to warn her about the day previous, and she dies. So the book ends with Winterbourne visiting her grave and eventually moved back to his normal life in Europe again. And he is still associated with himself with another young lady who is older than himself, and they said she is very smart, smarter than Miss Daisy Miller. Okay, so now let's jump to the cast. In the book, we have a couple of characters, not too much. However, a short list of characters still make a great novel though. And the novel which established one author fame in both sides of the Atlantics. We have Winterbourne, whose full name is Frederick Winterbourne, our main protagonist. Daisy Miller, who is Annie P. Miller, almost protagonist, and Mrs. Walker, Mrs. Costello, Eugenio, that gentleman, and Daisy's younger brother, Rodolphe Miller. So now let's talk about character and analyze. So in the book we have Daisy Miller, who is the center of the book. Although we are not focusing through her eyes, but we are focusing in the third perspective and follow the journey of Winterbourne. We can get the grasp of who Daisy Miller really is. And in my opinion, her background is kind of wealthy. She comes from upstate New York, and she's traveling to Europe with her family. Her dad is a big man, Washington, bro. Just kidding. And although she seemed very earnestness, she seemed very friendly, very willing, and free-spirited, and have big individuality. She seemed to be lack of morals, lack of grace, and she is kind of ignorance. In the book, though, if you read more, you will realize that she talks shamelessly about many things. She tried to use stereotypical type to associate that Winterbourne could know certain people just because he and that person are both European. She associated very stupid things and talked tirelessly about her family, richness, and holidays. Nobody cares. And in a certain way, she's manipulative to get into the center of the social class. She tried to cloud all these men to her to make her the center of the talk of the town. Secondly, we have Winterbourne. Winterbourne is like a gentleman who had lived in Geneva and following around Europe for most of his life, just like Henry James does. Henry James passed away. And Winterbourne is always torn between the question: is she immoral or is she innocent? And he is always trying to figure out who Lizzie is. He tried to classify her, to pin her down to a certain moral women he knew, so he would be able to act to her that would be appropriate and be suited. And when Mrs. Costello, his aunt, tried to mock her and say things about her, he clearly defend her and try to be friend with her and help her. However, he know his past, and when he realized that she's ultimately undeserving of his help, he leave her. And because of her immorals, also is a point that caused her death. And then we have Mrs. Costello. In my opinion, Mrs. Costello can turn to be very wise or very self-observed. She is self-important. She thinks that she's more exclusive than people. Yeah, because she comes from upstate town like this, from big family in New York, and she have this old family in New York, and both in European countries and in America. And she is also very judgmental and critical of other people. Just because they are friendly with their career, like the Millers does, she don't like them. She despise them, and she talk about other people as if she know them for real. Then we have Mrs. Walker, who is a friend that Winterbourne be friend with, and I actually like her a lot because in the book she actually cried when Daisy refused her advice, and her advice was truly important because if Daisy had not befriend Mr. Jordan Valley, who is the gentleman, I forgot his name, sorry, she won't be dead by now, and she won't be so scandalous in the town. And I think that Mrs. Walker deep down do care for Daisy Miller, does care for Daisy Miller, but she just not say it out loud. And I think that because of that made her the center of the fashionable social class in Italy. And then finally we have our kind of like a matchmaker, Rudolph Miller, who is Daisy's 9-year-old brother. In my opinion, he is very ungoverned child, lack of discipline. That's what make his rudeness to stranger in hotel. I ask you a question: if you're a 9-year-old, would you go to a stranger table and ask for a lump of sugar? My answer is no. Like nobody would do that. That is so rude. That is so impolite. That stranger can mock you and kind of use that to show that you are uneducated. Especially you come from a rich business class, and your father is like so rich. And now let's talk about Daisy's mother. So Daisy's mother in the book clearly play a very role for us to mock her. She's very impolite. She's your health, and she's very selfish. She only care about herself mostly. She refused to walk around with her daughter and refused to govern her daughter even though men come to her daughter's room at night. She still ignorant of all of that. And I mostly hated her because how dare she do that to her daughter, you know? And now, let's talk about the key theme of the book. Based on Wikipedia and some of my research, the book mainly talk about how Europeans think of the Americans and how Americans think of the European. The subject unclear. Who is the Americans here? Who is the European? But you can judge by yourself. That Daisy Miller is ultimately the Americans, and the people surrounding her is the Europeans. And why is that? So with the rise of the Golden Age, with the high rise of the gold price, you study in school, the Golden Age is very important. There's a new social class boom in the middle, the business social class. This class is not either too rich, like billionaires, or not too peasants. They can have enough money to travel around, live comfortably, and still be called rich and wealthy. And that made the family of Miller quite suited to that class. Their father is a businessman, they have enough money to live comfortably, and they visit Europe all around, try to cultivate themselves and try to expand their knowledge about old and conventional ideas of European. However, because they are new and because they are just only to find yet. They are really exclusive towards other people. The people isolate them because they thought that those like new loose foot Americans don't know much about our culture. And the book, it represents how Henry James, the one who had lived the remainder of his life in Europe, treat the other new Americans, people who come to visit European for once in their lifetime. And the book, the people talking about Daisy, is actually how James would react to those American people. Don't know how to act, don't know any manners in European country. And now let's talk a bit about recommendation. So finally, after conclude everything, have everything closed out, what do you think on this book? What's your opinion? Do you hate Daisy Miller? Do you I despise her? Have to kill her or something? Maybe, because I see many people say that. Excuse me for the noise behind me. My neighbors is like very, very annoying, bro. And so now let's talk about recommendation. I highly recommend you read The Turn of the Screw by Henry James. It's like a classic ghost story, but I won't go into a detail because I don't want to spoil it to you, that's all. Because I love you. And one more thing. The Turn of the Screw and most of Henry James' book have the same ending as Daisy Miller. The book never answers the true question it put out, but it helps the viewer to get a grip of what's going on. And the viewer can judge by themselves whether the answer is right to their guessing or just definitely wrong and to the author ideas. For example, in the book by Henry James, Daisy Miller, the question is most like, is Daisy innocent or she so immoral? And that's me a thumbnail today. Yeah. And Daisy never answered the question herself. Her behavior is less than very innocent, but James never answered. Just like the turn of the screw. Are the children evil? Are they immoral? Are they molesting everything? Or are they just being manipulated by the entity around them? Who knows? And secondly, I would highly recommend you the book The Wings of the Dove. The book also tells about class and social class and rich and their richness and the fight over money and currency and everything. And it's hard to say. Though I read the book summary a couple of times, I still have some influence on me. The book is really good. The Wings of the Dove, The Turn of the Screw, and I think that you should read some of those books. But I'll see you guys later. If you like this video, you can put a thumbs up. Don't like it, dislike me, and then comments why you hate me or anything. I'm gonna link all the things I'm talking in this video down in the description below. The book I put PDF so you can read it online. It's more like convenient for you if you have a phone around you. And I put the audio version, both short and long. The original and the summarized is description below, and I'll see you guys later. Next book coming soon. I already filmed it, okay?